No more rogue for now. Yeah, that is until we finish with the next sequence of AC3, but for now we're spared. But yeah, once we finish with the next sequence of AC3 though, we're gonna be playing for the entire rogue game essentially. So then it's gonna be rogue for a while. At least for a few streams, I think. But yeah, let me go ahead and set up the streaming title accordingly here. Yeah, that's true. It's definitely short, so it wouldn't take me too long. I'm gonna do quite a bit of side stuff for, like at least collectible wise. So we're probably gonna be spending a bit more time overall. But yeah, it's not gonna be overly long, I don't think. Okay, AC3. Alright. That should do it. Back to Haven. It's kind of interesting that William Johnson appeared in Rogue just now, and you know that he's like kind of like thinking or kind of like trying to get the manuscript, because it's never like mentioned AC3, right? Like even between these sequences where we play, there's like no mentioning of any kind of like manuscript that he's looking for. Like maybe one for the vote, of course, but it's never like indicated in Rogue that that's what he's looking for. So it seems like another kind of a connection between Rogue and 3 that doesn't quite work together. Hell yeah. Okay, so we will definitely be focusing on main story because a lot of the side stuff isn't really relevant until later either. However, there is an interactive conversation over here with Benjamin Franklin, I think, who we just talked to. It's gonna give us some advice on relationships and stuff, I think. So I wanna listen to him. I do want to get as many of the interactive optional conversations as I can. And there's a lot of this game, so yeah, we're gonna listen to all of that.
You have my everlasting gratitude, sir.
I mean, the farmers tending to their non-existent crops in winter isn't relevant to the story. Yeah, that's really funny with the seasons in this game, sometimes. I'm gonna try to plan some of the conversations and homestead missions a bit more according to the season, I think.
Thank you.
Hello again.
More almanac pages?
Not quite. It's a treatise, actually.
Oh? Concerning what?
The benefits of taking an older woman as a lover.
Really? This I'd like to hear.
First and most obvious, they're wiser. And so this makes for far more stimulating conversation. Makes other things more stimulating as well, but more on that in a moment.
All right. Your argument for experience makes some sense.
Second, when beauty fades, women must improve their utility, lest they be discarded and forgotten. Rare is an old woman who is not also kind, compassionate, and good.
That's something of a generalization.
But also true. Now, on to the third. Older women cannot conceive, which means one less thing over which to fret. In fact, you also decrease the chance of acquiring something like the French pox, its presence clearly visible, or the woman dead.
And should one desire a child?
Then make a young woman your wife. Let the older one be a mistress. And that brings me to my fourth point. With age comes prudence. An older woman is less likely to reveal your indiscretions.
Yes. I suppose you know quite a bit about that.
And proud of it, thank you. As to the fifth reason, because in every animal that walks upright, the deficiency of the fluids that fill the muscles appears first in the highest part. The face first grows lank and wrinkled, then the neck, then the breast and arms. The lower parts continuing to the last as plump as ever, so that covering all above with a basket, and regarding only what is below the girdle, it is impossible of two women to know an old from a young one. And as in the dark all cats are gray, the pleasure of corporal enjoyment with an old woman is at least equal and frequently superior, every knack being by practice capable of improvement.
You mad bastard!
Well, it's true, and believe me, I should know. I've sampled a great many. You should try one as well. Like a fine wine, they only improve with age. Although I suppose if left unattended too long, some have a tendency to sour. And that, my friend, is a most unpleasant experience. Better to work in a field often plowed, you know?
Is there more?
Indeed, indeed. The sixth is this. The sin is less. To take a maidenhead is a great responsibility. Mishandled, it can ruin lives. No such risk with an older woman. And this implies the seventh. Younger women are more given to compunction. Anxiety and unease are not present in the more aged and experienced. And as to the last of my reasons, well, it's really quite simple. Older women are so very grateful for the attention.
You make a compelling argument, Mr. Franklin. I might just have to run a few tests myself.
I highly recommend it.
Dude, what the fuck is this conversation? It's kind of interesting how different Franklin seems from Rogue to Free. Like in Free, you know, in this conversation, you can clearly see that he's very calculated and like, you know, clearly like is kind of like using people in a way that's beneficial to him. You know, like the way he also talks about an argument for like why to have a relationship with an old woman, you know. It's mostly kind of like making use of the disadvantages that old women face as well. Whereas in Rogue, you know, he's kind of just like this kind of like naive mad scientist in a way, you know, character. I know, I feel like they are very different in the way they kind of like think or behave. Just listening to this dialogue as well. Also, you know, we literally just had a cutscene with him in Rogue. But yeah, like every time you, for instance, like the Templars or Assassins interact with Franklin, you know, he never really makes any kind of like doubt about who he's working for or why he's working with them or something. You know, he's just like interested in his kind of like inventions. But that wasn't really Benjamin Franklin, was it? Like, I mean, he was a freaking ambassador to America and France. He certainly, you know, fought beyond his inventions only. He was also a very political person. Wasn't just like a scientist who only cared about that. But that's another thing with Rogue, right? Like, they actually kind of changed some characters. Like, they also changed Achilles quite a bit, I feel personally at least. So it almost doesn't feel like the same character anymore. And it also makes sense because it's of course written by different writers. So a change is to be expected. I don't think that has to mean or exclude that, you know, they still can't feel like the same character. And I feel like Rogue didn't really nail that with a lot of the characters that appear in both games, I guess.
I owe you a great thanks, by the way.
What for?
Speaking with me. You see, I have very few friends in Boston these days.
And what did you do to earn their ire?
Started with a cartoon I drew, suggesting unification. How else can we hope to withstand the French menace? I proposed something similar at the Albany conference as well, and it ruffled quite a few feathers. See, I've begun to wonder if Parliament best serves our interests. The colonies might be better off independent and autonomous. Most of my peers, however, haven't taken kindly to the suggestion.
Are things truly so bad under the Crown?
But you've answered your own question. Under. Why under? It should be side by side. Does France reside beneath Britain? Do the Italians? The Prussians? The Spanish? No. Oh, sure, they may disagree from time to time, even come to blows, but they stand on equal ground. And we should as well.
Are the colonies not simply an extension of the kingdom, though? Another borough, if you will?
No, we are not. We've evolved into something else, something distinct.
I suppose it's only natural to desire parity. We leave behind our parents, our childhoods, our homes, and seek to find a place in the world. If it's true for a person, why not a nation?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Interesting.
Anyway, I've taken up enough of your time. Please, don't let me keep you from your work.
Yeah, definitely some interesting conversations. What I actually quite enjoyed here was the reference to the Albany conference. You know, that's literally the event we just saw earlier as well in Rogue. So it's nice that that's actually kind of like considered here, you know, that he's been to the Albany conference like 4 months before, essentially. It's a nice historical tie-in here and really makes this order more worth it, the way I played it, you know. Because otherwise it would have just been mentioned here, but we wouldn't have seen it until we play Rogue. So that's really nice, actually. It's a good way how Rogue kind of like filled that gap, I think.
Let us speak later, my friend. Sorry, but I've some work needs doing. Let us speak later, my friend. Sorry, but I've some work needs doing.
Alrighty then. Shall we get a viewpoint? Kind of like bug the ambient music, which I don't want, to be honest. I think I'm gonna skip the viewpoint for now. I'm just gonna get it later when we play as Connor. Time for some main story.
Hello, Charles. Any luck finding our mystery woman?
Word is she's been stirring up trouble just outside the city in a town called Lexington.
Well, then that's where we'll begin our search. I'll meet you there.
It's kind of interesting the like visual change in charts. You know, after spending so much time with Haven, and also months having passed of like still searching for the same thing. Like for a vault that opens, or is opened by the key that Haven has. You can really see like his, you know, kind of like eyeshadows got a lot darker. And he also looks like a bit more evil than he actually did in the start of the game. I wonder if it's intentional, but I think it is because it's quite a distinct visual change in his face there. It's gonna change even further later on. Like his look. Almost like you can see like his moral decay over time. Into the frontier here. I really enjoy this area actually. It's completely like nature based, which was like a first in Assassin's Creed at the time. Like never before we had like an area that was completely like focusing on wildlife and tree parkour like that. And yeah, I mean obviously we had like the mountains for AC2 for instance, but it's not quite the same, you know, like focus on like wildlife at all. Obviously isn't urban, but this was definitely like the next level. We still have like some villages in the frontier, but overall just really focusing on hunting grounds and you know that. Sequence 3. Unconvinced.
Have you found her?
She's made camp not too far from here.
Excellent. Well, the sooner we're done, the sooner we can get out of this cold.
I am afraid I have some bad news, sir.
Oh?
Braddock is insisting I return to service under him. I've tried to beg off, to no avail.
No doubt he's still angry about losing Pitcairn. To say nothing of the shaming we gave him. Do as he asks. In the meantime, I'll work on having you released.
I'm sorry for the trouble.
Not your fault.
We're too late.
Fire's only just been snuffed. Snow recently disturbed. She's close.
Onyx.
Tracks are fresh. They must be hers. Seems she took to higher ground. Out of the snow and into the trees.
Wait here.
Oh, damn it. Wait! Come back! Do you return to Braddock, Charles, before he grows suspicious? I can handle things from here.
But, sir!
But nothing! Go! Stop running! I only wish to talk! I am not your enemy! Please just hear me out! Gods, woman! Only let me speak!
Nice. It's kind of interesting. I was kind of like so used to Rogue that I wanted to do like a few things. Like first thing I wanted to do was like tree parkour, but we can't actually do that as Haven. He doesn't know how to climb trees apparently. And we also can't skin animals, because Haven doesn't do that either. Doesn't unlock until we play as Connor, for which, you know, climbing or for who climbing trees and skinning animals is like, you know, really like part of everyday life. I do like that distinction in 3 between Haven and Connor. Also animation wise there's a few differences.
You try my patience, woman!
Are you touched in the head?
Me, Hatham. I come in peace.
Why are you speaking so slow?
Sorry.
What do you want?
Well, your name, for one.
I'm Gadzit Zio.
Pleased to meet you. God's day.
Just call me Zio.
Dio.
Zio.
Dio.
Now tell me why it is you're here. Where did you get this?
From an old friend.
I've only seen such markings in one other place.
Where?
Well, it is forbidden for me to speak of it.
I saved your people. Does this mean nothing to you? Look, I am not the enemy.
Close to here, there is a hill. Meet me there, and we'll see if you speak the truth. That town hosts soldiers who seek to drive my people from these lands. They're led by a man known as the Bulldog.
Edward Braddock.
You know him?
He is no friend of mine.
Every day, more of my people are lost to men like him.
Then I suggest we put a stop to it. Together.
What do you propose?
That we kill Edward Braddock. But first, we have to find him.
Right, we have Guts the Zio. Was a member of the Kanekaka nation, living on the frontier lands near Boston at the time of the French and Indian War. Citizen records indicate she was the daughter of the Lakoina, or clan mother, and from an early age was being groomed for leadership herself. While many in her community chose to ignore the incursions by the colonists into the area, and growing tensions between the French and British, Gatsizio was convinced that they presented a very real danger. She began to argue to anyone who would listen that the village should take action rather than staying silent, which was contrary to the will of the clan chief at the time. She refused to follow the orders to remain neutral, deciding to fight back in her own way and recruiting help where she could get it, including from Haven Kenway. The French and Indian War. This is one of many wars in the long-standing British versus French rivalry. Well, you might call it rivalry, I'd call it a battle of wits with an unarmed country. This particular war being over who would come out as the biggest colonial power. Of course, it was enough if the British and French fight one another, and convince a number of North American indigenous nations to join the conflict as well, hence the name French and Indian War. The war started in the colonies but it spread to Europe, but was known as the 7 Years' War. Before you pointed out, yes, I know the dates add up to more than 7 years. The conflict started in 1754, but war hasn't officially declared until 1756. But well done for spotting it, you Mathlete. I bet you were popular at school. George Washington has the honor of starting the actual fighting, under orders of course. He was sent to create a fort in disputed territory. While he was doing that, he crossed paths with a French patrol. Washington attacked, the French retaliated. The British followed up by sending 2 full regiments of regulars to the fight, and so it began. The British fought a losing battle until about 1758, when they got a new prime minister, who decided funding the war effort was a priority. Possibly because of the whole French thing. Maybe he ate a bad baguette once, with the added support. The British, along with their indigenous allies and the colonial militia, began to gain ground slowly but surely. Eventually, the French were driven out of almost all of their territory north of the Caribbean, something we in Britain celebrate with a special holiday called Every Day or Year. So the British won, but they were left with huge war debts. They tried to pay these off with taxes levied from the colonists they had defended from the French. Would have had them all eating onions and saying, "Oui sir, non sir," before you knew it. The colonists objected, leading up to a series of protests, which were part of the unrest that led to the American Revolution. Talk about gratitude, Zualo. It's kind of funny, like, you know, Sean's kind of like remarks against the French here. Obviously, he's kind of like, you know, presenting a bit of like the British view on it. But there's also a bit self-ironic in a way. It's not like entirely serious with the trash talk.
I don't trust you,
I know
yet you remain.
that I might prove you wrong.
It will not happen.
So you say.
So I know.
Yet, I remain.
I can definitely tell, you know, there's something going on between Zio and Haven. They kind of like pretend they don't like each other much, or at least she pretends to, but there's definitely a few moments I already have had, you know, where we're clearly showing like sympathy to each other. Bit of a shame, but it seems you can't actually pet animals at Haven either. Well, you can pet the chicken, or at least feed it. And I can pet this doggo. Ah, okay, so I couldn't pet the other doggo? Now I can. Okay. It's kind of curious actually if I actually took that out for Haven. Would be a bit like curious why they would do that. Like maybe Haven just hates animals very much.
Wait here. A Mohawkman is likely to raise suspicions, if not muskets.
This is hardly the first time I've been amongst your people. I can handle myself.
I hope so.
Can't stand being quartered there. The endless crashing of the waves, the sting of the salt in my eyes, and the goddamn gulls shrieking and shitting everywhere.
You're sure that's where we're going?
Aye, the Bulldog's putting together another expedition.
That's what they're calling them now. Expeditions.
Aye, smart too. Slap a fancy name on something and all evil is excused.
I hear tell the French are readying to move on our positions. Wonder what Braddock intends to do about it.
He's already left for the advance camp. I'll wager our little holiday here is just about ended. We'll be marching south before week's end.
Oi! Where you going, Cully?
Me?
No, the other cock Robin.
Well, I was leaving.
Oh? And now?
Well, now... I'm going to feed you your teeth.
And you were worried I was going to be the problem?
I gotta say, Haven's actually quite sympathetic in the introduction here. What the fuck? Why is he using his Sin Blade?
You're hurt.
Oh, it's nothing.
Here. The It should stop the bleeding.
That wasn't necessary. But thank you.
We should move on. Meet me at Braddock's camp when you're ready.
Right, let's take the horse here. The horse knocks over some people. Sounds like Haven. Yeah, especially if you play him, Levy. Yeah, I mean, that would never happen to you or me ever, Levy. Especially not with these regulars here. Yeah, I'd never knock people over. Ever. I think it's kind of interesting how all of the stuff that you do as Haven is kind of like saved as Connor, right? Like, for example, if I explore here in the frontier, like that's gonna be also like unfogged later as Connor already. I think kind of makes sense in some way though, because obviously Connor could in theory synchronize with his father's memories in a way, like with Haven's. And feel like, you know, those are places that already seem to him, like, familiar to him because, you know, who knows, maybe he has, like, some form of natural bleeding effect or something. Obviously, there's no real, like, story justification for, like, the money that gets transferred. Though, I don't think it actually gets transferred until you loot a chest in the Green Dragon's Tavern. That's right. So it does actually make sense in that regard. But also makes sense because you kind of like stop playing Haven as soon as Connor gets conceived. So everything you would kind of like do afterwards is not really of you know, importance to Connor anymore because it couldn't synchronize with those memories at all. But yeah, I think that's maybe the intention behind keeping some of the progression at least for Connor that you have as Haven. Only 2 more episodes of the show left. How many are there in total? Is it like 6? But yeah, how was it, Max? I've only watched the first episode so far.
Use the snowstorm to mask your approach. Having second thoughts?
Hardly. But I'll have to approach this carefully.
Go on then. I'll keep watch from here.
You really sad?
I can hide in that cart.
Well, I guess people are dying then.
What's in the wagon? I need a full inventory.
As you wish. Let's see. 2 barrels of salt, 12 pounds pork, 10 pounds beef, 7 dozen eggs, 16 wheels of cheese. None of it French, don't worry. 5 bottles of whiskey, couple dozen new uniforms, boots, a leather for patching, blankets, a cart feed for the horses. What else? That's it. That's all there is.
Damn, bad shade against French cheeseful.
Those cannons are like to cause trouble. Perhaps I could sabotage them.
But that kind of makes sense. It would make a comment about that, considering it's like, you know, French-Indian War. John Fraser, also spelled Fraser or Frazier, was a Scottish-born trader living in the area of Fort Duquesne during the French and Indian War, and a participant in the Braddock expedition. Fraser left Scotland sometime after 1745, possibly because of political troubles. The Fraser had supported the Stuarts, who were on the losing end of a rebellion. He set up trade on the upper Allegheny River, but was quickly run out of his cabin by the French. He moved further down the river, near modern-day Pittsburgh, built a new cabin, and continued to trade. Fraser was one of the settlers building a fort on the site of Fort Duquesne, near his own land, where the French took over again. Fraser supplied Washington's attempt to reclaim the fort in 1754, which was followed by the defeat at Fort Necessity, and served as the chief scout during the Braddock expedition. After Braddock failed, Fraser gave up on the area, depriving the French of a third opportunity to chase him off his land. So I suppose it's all a small victory. He moved to the Tuscarora Valley before finally settling at Fort Bedford. We also got the Grenadiers unlocked earlier. They were originally the soldiers in charge of throwing grenades, hence the name. They were chosen for being tall, muscular, and fearless. Not only did they need the strength to throw grenades far enough to actually injure the enemy, they had to be brave or stupid enough to stay in the front lines of battle to do it. Grenadiers were also called upon to be fast, effective assault troops, helping with things like storming breaches during sieges. You know, all the standard easy jobs that are likely to get you killed. By the mid-18th century, grenadiers have fallen out of favor, but grenadiers were still regarded as elite regiments, called on to guard the right flank of a battalion, and still do all the other dangerous work they'd gotten a reputation for. An interesting note on their heads: they were made high and narrow, so that as not to get in the way while you were throwing grenades, which is a good feature to have. Eventually the mitre had become part of a standard dress uniform in numerous armies. It's also possible grenadiers just really dig the idea of looking like the Pope. History's mute on that point. Imagine that's the motivation for their heads. Because, you know, the Pope was just way too fashionable for him to have that head like exclusively for him. The Battle of Fort Necessity. This was one of the opening battles of the French and Indian War, and it's important that opening battles are quite exciting, otherwise everyone just sort of loses interest. In 1754, George Washington was sent to the head of the Ohio River Valley with a group of Virginia militia. The land there was contested territory between the British colonists and the French. Washington's mission was to retake Fort Duquesne and drive French forces out of the area. Washington and his troops attacked the French patrol at Jumonville Glen in what would be the first acts of violence in the war. Washington expected a return attack and so had his troops build a palisade wall surrounding their supplies. A fort of necessity, hence the name. But they might as well have called it the Fort of Inadequacy, because supplies ran low and the militia and the British regular reinforcements were quickly overwhelmed. On July 4, Washington surrendered, was allowed to retreat, and someone else was put in charge of naming forts. It was Washington's only military surrender, though he had plenty of strategic retreats. The Aspin was alive and woe even then. Yeah, I guess that's why we also call the Braddock expeditions, even though they're basically just mass murders. Because it sounds a bit nicer. Okay, so we have to not kill anybody using a weapon. And we also gotta sabotage the cannons.
Refused the offer. There will be no truce.
Damn it! Why, George? What reason did he give?
He said a diplomatic solution was no solution at all. That allowing the French to retreat would only delay an inevitable conflict. One in which they'd now have the upper hand.
There's merit to those words, as much as I hate to admit it. Still, can't he see this is unwise?
It doesn't sit well with me either. We're far from home with our forces divided. Worse, I fear Braddock's bloodlust makes him careless. It puts the men at risk. I'd rather not be delivering grim news to mothers and widows because the Bulldog wanted to prove a point.
Where is the General now?
Rallying the troops.
And then it's on to Fort Duquesne, I assume?
Eventually. The march north will surely take time. There's a copy of the plans in the command tent should you wish to review them.
At least this will be ended soon.
I tried, John.
I know, my friend. I know.
That map will surely be of use. I need to find it.
Kind of interesting seeing Washington here. I like how it's more like a, you know, in the back of a scene character. Later on he becomes like much more important. Okay, that's cannon number 1. Time to get a second. Okay, I'm just gonna go the way I came from, I think. Should make it easier. Could also just go this way. Let's do that instead. I know there's a lot of people that don't like the slow physics because they kind of like slow things down. But I really love them and find them satisfying. Because, you know, it's kind of like immersing me like in the nature in a way. Because, yeah, going through deep snow, you know, isn't an easy task at all times.
What news?
Braddock has left to rally his troops. They're marching on Fort Duquesne. It'll be a while yet till they're ready, which gives us time to form a plan.
No need. We will ambush him here near the river. Go and gather your allies. I will do the same. I will send word when it is time to strike.
Okay, let's find a way to get past this river. It works. It's a fun fact, but the wildlife and snow physics and all that have actually been created by the same team that made the same for Red Dead Redemption 2. Which to me is actually kind of funny, because I remember watching Rod play Red Dead back then. Like 2 to 3 years ago or something, and I was like thinking, which AC game, you know, actually comes the closest to kind of like the wildlife immersion. And I kind of like thought of AC3, and when I found out about, you know, it's the same team behind it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. You definitely see the similarities and also the improvements they've made since then. But yeah, they done a stellar job with AC3, like for the time, you know, like 2012. Just fantastic how realistic and immersive it is at times. Five months later.
The cold, cold ground.
Here, here.
Hard at work, I see.
How did you...
It is time. We've set up camp to the north. Meet me there.
Gentlemen, let us away.
First it was too cold. Now it's too goddamn hot.
And humid too. It's a right swamp, I tell you.
Hold on. My controller's like bugging around. Also got a new database entry, didn't we? Let's see, events. There we go. The Braddock Expedition. This battle was part of the French and Indian War. In it, Edward Braddock's force of 1,500 British regulars and militia was decimated by a group of French-led troops half its size. This is not something we talk about much in Britain. Braddock had been sent to capture Fort Duquesne at the top of the Ohio River. His officers included a young George Washington, possibly because Washington knew the area, having surrendered at Fort Necessity the year before. Braddock's troops were about 10 miles from Fort Duquesne when they were ambushed by a group of French and indigenous fighters. Braddock's advanced troops were overwhelmed and fell back into the main body of the army. His rearguard didn't hear the order to stop and kept advancing into the main body of the army. The result was chaos. Almost every one of his officers was killed, with the exception of Washington. Braddock himself was fatally wounded. Washington had him carried from the field and he died 4 days later. An interesting historical note, Braddock gave his officer's sash to George Washington, asking him to preserve it. Washington did. It's still on display at Mount Vernon. The battle is also known as the Braddock's Defeat, but interestingly, no one knows why. I'm kidding, or if you need me to tell you why, I don't think you're really cut out for this. Yeah, because we're about to kill him, of course. Very interesting, so that's July of 1755. Nice. So that's still according to my timeline. order here.
To say nothing of the mosquitoes.
Warm weather and bugs are soon to be the least of our worries.
What? You mean the bulldog? Huh, please. We'll be in that one's beef soon enough and on to the next.
Where's your boy Lee gone off to?
Returned to finish out his service under Braddock.
I imagine the bulldog's none too pleased after the stunt we pulled.
Pleased to spin a tale of my incompetence and beg forgiveness. He has a way with words, especially when it comes to flattery. I expect he'll be welcomed back with open arms.
Which would give us a man inside.
Precisely.
Unless you've underestimated our enemy.
If I have, Charles will sense it first and make his escape. He's more clever than you think.
He's so clever.
I'm taking a week in New York. It's high time I went and saw the sights.
Of empty whiskey bottles and women's breeches, no doubt.
What other kinds of sights is worth seeing?
It's kind of interesting how a lot of things are already set up here. You know, like, this is completely missable if you just go to Zio already. But Hickey is kind of like establishing, you know, that he's only in for pleasure, you know, and power and money, essentially. He doesn't really care about the Templar goods, you know, he just wants to kind of like live easy, I guess, you know. Get lots of women, drink lots of beer, and, you know, just like all around, essentially. But yeah, that's his intention of joining the Templars, right? But also the remark from Haven regarding Chadsey, you know, saying he's much more clever than you think. It's also kind of like indicating that Haven himself may be underestimating how clever Chadsey is, you know. Because there's like countless situations where Chadsey is doing one thing and Haven doesn't even know about it. Like, you know, he doesn't know that, for example, Chadsey is later on, like, you know, hitting his own son, I guess, and almost killing him. Obviously, Chadsey didn't know that it was Haven's son either, but at that point, but the whole way he treats the indigenous people, you know, like, that's not really something that was in Haven's intention at all. I mean, he worked together with him. Didn't hurt him.
I see you've been busy.
All these men are from many different tribes, united in their desire to see Braddock sent away. The Abenaki, the Lenape, the Shawnee.
And you? Who do you stand for?
Myself.
What would you have me do?
Will you help the others to prepare? Follow. They come.
Everything all right, sir?
Just savoring the moment. No doubt, many wonder why it is we've pushed so far west. These are wild lands as yet untamed and unsettled. But it shall not always be so. In time, our holdings will no longer suffice. And that day is closer than you think. We must ensure our people have ample room to grow and further prosper. Which means we need more land. The French understand this, and endeavor to prevent such growth. They skirt around our territory, erecting forts and forging alliances, awaiting the day they might strangle us with the noose they've built. This must not come to pass. We must sever the cord and send them back. This is why we ride, to offer them one last chance. The French will leave, or they will die.
Now's the time to strike.
Wait. To scatter the expedition is not enough. We must ensure that Braddock falls, else he's sure to try again. I'll disguise myself as one of his own and make my way to his side. Your ambush will provide the perfect cover for me to deliver the killing blow.
Like how Haven was actually thinking like an assassin in this moment. The Abenaki nation originated in what's now northern New England, and the southern Canadian Maritimes. Although suggesting there are only one nation may be a bit of a misnomer, since Abenaki can refer to numerous groups from the same approximate geographic area and language family. Algonquin, since you ask. Although the various Abenaki were joined together during crisis events like when they were under the attack from other nations, for the most part they had no central authority. That's probably partly what caused the encroachment of British colonists on their land. The British like to have formal governments they could negotiate treaties with, which is so much more civilized, and sometimes there are canopies, so from the colonist perspective, no central government meant that the Abenaki had no claim on the land. Of course they could have found out otherwise, but that would have taken work and been complicated, and perhaps most importantly, the Abenaki might have said no. Hey there, Brennan? Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. While the Abenaki tried to remain neutral during the French and Indian War, they were quite literally caught between the warring British and French colonies, so some conflict was inevitable. For the most part they sided with the French, who were less responsible for driving them out of their homeland. The lesser of two evils, I suppose you could say. Well, that's a sentence I never thought I would say about the French. The Lenape, also called the Lenni Lenape or the Delaware. Before European colonization, the Lenape lived mostly along the banks of the Delaware River in what's modern-day New Jersey and Pennsylvania. The Lenape were one of the first nations to come into contact with Europeans, most significantly with William Penn, who founded Pennsylvania, which was a stroke of luck given his name. While the Lenape relationship with Penn was mostly peaceful, when Penn died his sons forced most of the Lenape off their land in a deal known as the Walking Purchase. During the French and Indian War, the Lenape sided primarily with the French, though some individual groups would later leave to join the British. In 1778 they were the first to sign a land treaty with the Continental Congress, agreeing to provide scouts to the army in exchange for supplies. I imagine they simply liked fine cheeses and onions. The newly formed United States showed its gratitude by eventually moving the Lenape into isolated communities in Ohio and southern Canada. Are wonderfully thoughtful. Yeah, no kidding. Made a video on this game? Oh, nice. What kind of video did you make? The Shawnee. At the time of the French and Indian War, the people of the Shawnee Nation were mostly living in and around the Ohio Valley, the territory surrounding Fort Duquesne. Traditionally, their hunting grounds had extended into Pennsylvania and Virginia, but they were being slowly moved from the lands by the advancing line of the British colonization. Hoping to stop or at least slow settlement, some of the Shawnee entered the war, siding with their traditional trading partners, that is, the French. By 1758, some Shawnee negotiated peace with the British in the Treaty of Easton. However, the treaty wasn't respected, and if you know anything about colonial history, you're probably sadly unsurprised by that, leading to another war, Pontiac's Rebellion in 1763. By the time the American Revolution started, many of the Shawnee opted to remain neutral, although some sided with the British, again hoping to help pushing back colonists. Unfortunately, the result was the same as many other indigenous people. The Shawnee were forced to leave their lands, with a majority eventually settling in Oklahoma. Good lord. Settling in Oklahoma? As if the story couldn't get any worse.
We await your signal.
There, in front of us.
Okay, so we gotta kill 2 people without triggering a conflict here. I don't wanna kill my target just yet, fool. Wait, why is he coming but not the other guy? It's like the others can't be lured by whistle or something. Okay, he can be lured.
Kill them!
Okay, fuck. They saw that. Let's reload checkpoint here.
We await your signal.
It's really weird how some people are affected by whistle, others aren't. Ah, Jesus, now the other guy gets let it. Okay. Okay.
Kill them!
It works. It's crazy to me how much better this game is than Rogue, like in every single way. At least that's my opinion.
I'm telling you, we've packed the cart too high. The ground is uneven, it's dangerous, hidden. One false move and the whole thing is sure to fall over.
I mean, of course you could find like a few things like the naval maybe being better. But just like as a game as a whole, you know, like for example the way missions are set up and stuff and how atmospheric they are. The writing quality, of course, as well.
How could anyone call this forest home?
If the French push back, there'll be a lot of opportunities for us up north.
Have served, you mean? Sir, you are grateful to have served. General!
Jesus. Braddock.
Tolerate doubt amongst those I command, nor sympathy for the enemy. I've no time for insubordination.
Killing his own people.
As all traitors must! If we are to win this war against the French, nay, when we win this war, it will be because men like you obeyed men like me, and did so without hesitation. We must have order amongst our ranks, and a clear chain of command. Leaders and followers. Without such structure, there can be no victory. Am I understood?
Jesus. Braddock falling like over tantrums, yeah? But yeah, no wonder he lost the battle, right? Considering he's killing like his own people off. No wonder. Okay, so why can't I... My controller's like bugging around again. Give me a sec. Game. The heck? Okay, I can't move for some reason. Now I can. Okay, good.
Edward. Not so fun on the other end of the barrel, is it? Look out!
Sir!
Where are you off to, Edward?
Is that a Wilhelm scream right there? Kinda sounded like. Why is Ave not shooting? The fuck? So the thing is, I kinda like have to shoot all of the barrels here to get the full sync requirements, so I have to make sure to get those done before we get them. Okay, there we go. That's one. Yeah, no worries whatsoever, Levy. I hope you have a great night and a good rest. Definitely get those groceries in the morning. And yeah, I will talk to you very soon.
I never took you for a coward, Edward.
Come on, then! Such arrogance. I always knew it would be the end of you. Is the end of you.
Don't. Hurry before he gets away! I said go!
Yeah, in your face, Washington.
I don't deserve this!
Oh. Got a database entry for Washington. Here's a name even you should recognize. George Washington, who would go on to be the leader of the army during the American Revolution and the first president of the United States. I was going to say you probably know everything I'm going to tell you, but that would be a lie. What you know is that George Washington has a lot of things named after him, and anything else you learned in school you forgot because you thought you'd never use it in real life. You should call your history teacher and tell her she was right all along. George Washington was the son of a planter from Virginia. He was raised with little education, but was ambitious, teaching himself mostly from books. Washington started in business early, speculating on land starting at the age of 18. When he was 20, his older brother died, leaving him the heir of a family plantation at Mount Vernon, where he lived until his death and where you can still visit his grave today. That's kinda interesting. I mean, we saw the death of his brother, right, Lawrence Washington, because we killed him in Rogue. However, in Rogue, he was clearly suffering from a sickness and looked like 60 years old or something, even though he was supposed to be 20. Another inconsistency with Rogue here. Hey Veroni, welcome in, dude. Nice late Crooked stream. Indeed. Yeah, doing a bit of Retro Sunday and did a bit of a cheat there because AC3 and Rogue are technically considered to be retro because they both came out on PS3 and Xbox 360. So yeah, I'm cheating a little and play those games today. We've been to Mount Vernon several times. Oh, nice. How was it? Washington got his military start during the French and Indian War, leading an expedition to Fort Duquesne in 1754, a destination he never reached, having surrendered at Fort Necessity. The next year, Washington headed to Fort Duquesne again, this time as a guide for Edward Braddock during the ill-fated Braddock expedition. Washington went as a volunteer, hoping that working for Braddock would get him a track to military promotion. Though Braddock was rout, Washington earned credit for organizing the retreat, and later that year he was made a colonel in charge of the Virginia militia. Hey there, Eiko. Welcome in. How's it going? Thank you for the follow. It was a nice place. There are all kinds of cool historical paintings in it. Oh, nice. That's really nice. Yeah, honestly, I would love to make a tour on kind of like the east coast of New York and visit like all the different historical places. But yeah, especially like Boston, New York, Philadelphia, I think. Washington completely revamped the militia, with hopes that under his organization and training they would be accepted into the British military. They never were. Washington resigned his post in 1758. I won't say the snub led to his contempt for the British, but snubs rarely help. By the late 1760s, Washington had become active in political life, taking on a role in the Virginia House of Burgesses. He went on to be a member of the Continental Congress, and when war broke out in 1775, it was Congress's choice to leave the army. At the time, Washington said, "I do not think myself equal to the command I am honored with," which I'm sure inspired complete confidence in everyone who heard it. Imagine if you were on an airplane and the captain opened with that. Jesus, imagine. Oh yeah, I can definitely imagine as well, Ronnie. Yeah, I've never been, but I would really love to go there. Maybe next time I get a chance to visit the States. But yeah, there's so many places I would love to see. Just, you know, such a big country, it's insane in comparison to like European standards of like size. It's possible Washington was being falsely modest, but the fact is this: he wasn't a military genius and he knew it, though I'm sure it hurts your American pride to hear me say he wasn't perfect. Washington had several narrow misses where the army could have easily been obliterated, at Manhattan and again at Brandywine, among others. Washington won an early victory. He broke the siege of Boston, but he then made the disastrous move of fortifying New York, a city he couldn't defend without a navy he didn't have. Even you can work out that one. He spent the latter half of 1776 retreating across New York and New Jersey, losing battle after battle, until Christmas when he pulled off a successful surprise attack the Hessian troops at Trenton. And while that battle makes for some famous paintings and it did rally the flagging confidence of the public, it was only a minor victory in the war. path that got like unchecked for some reason. We did read it already though, so I'm just gonna uncheck it here. I think it's because I reloaded the checkpoint earlier, so it must have got rid of it.
You're a hypocrite, Hatham! I'm sorry, Edward, but you forced my hand! Oh, damn it!
So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna shoot him. Because in the database entry it said for Braddock that he got shot by one of his own people. And for kind of like consistency of that story, I think I'm gonna shoot him because we're obviously disguised as one of his.
Why, Hatham?
Your death opens a door. It's nothing personal. Well, maybe it is a little personal. Been a pain in my ass, after all.
But we are brothers in arms.
Once, perhaps. No longer.
Do you think I've forgotten what you did? All those innocents slaughtered, and for what? It does not engender peace to cut your way to resolution.
Wrong. Whether we applied the sword more liberally and more often, the world would be a better place than it is today.
In this instance, I concur. Farewell, Edward.
It's done. Now I've upheld my part of the bargain. I expect that you will honor yours.
Follow me.
No. No!
You seem disappointed.
I thought that I held a key that would open something here.
This room is all there is.
I expected more. What do they mean?
It tells the story of Yodzizu, who came into our world and shaped it for what life might come. She had a hard journey, fraught with great loss and peril. But she believed in her children and what they might achieve. And though she is long gone from the physical world, her eyes still watch over us. Her ears still hear our words. Her hands still guide us. And her love still gives us strength.
You have shown me great kindness, dear. Thank you. I should go.
Yeah, there we go. That's why we have Connor. Give us Striker Knight, welcome in. Hey there, Ridiculously Ben, thank you for the lurk. And thank you to Ronnie. Although it is American history, sword means 250 years. It doesn't really compare to Rome or Athens or especially Cairo. Yeah, it's definitely quite a difference, like recorded history and how far it reaches. But yeah, the size war of like, the United States and stuff is just insane compared to like individual countries in Europe. There's just so much like nature to see. I feel that I would like to see when I visit the States next time. This Templar on Templar violence needs to stop low. Honestly, for me, they could keep on going, The less Templars, the better. Still better love story than Twilight. I mean, that's a fact, I think. Twilight 4.
Master Kenway. Did you find it then?
It was not the right place.
The others are waiting for you.
Gentlemen, please, sit. I fear our temple was no more than a painted cave. Although it did contain precursor images and script, which means we are close.
Not close enough, it seems.
We need to redouble our efforts and expand our order and establish a permanent base here. Although the site eludes us, I am confident we will find it.
Truth.
Hear, hear.
Furthermore, I believe it is time we welcome Charles into our fold. He has proven himself a loyal disciple and served unerringly since the day he came to us. He should be able to share in our knowledge and reap all the benefits that such a gift implies. Are any opposed? Very well. Charles, come, stand. Do you swear to uphold the principles of our order and all that for which we stand?
I do.
And never to share our secrets nor divulge the true nature of our work?
I do.
And to do so from now until death, whatever the cost?
I do.
Then we welcome you into our fold, brother. Together, we will usher in the dawn of a new world, one defined by purpose and order. Give me your hand. You are a Templar. May the Father of Understanding guide us.
May the Father of Understanding guide us.
Wait, what?
Man, that reveal still gives me chills, because we don't expect it the first time we play it if you don't know about Haven and who he is. Yeah, I just remember being like thunderstruck because I really thought I was with the assassins. First time I played, this game.
You all saw that, right?
Wow.
Well, indeed.
The key must be the amulet Hatham took from London.
We might know what it looks like, but we're no closer to finding it. Desmond, you need to keep going.
Hey, he's your ancestor too. Why don't you hop in the Animus?
Really? That's your response? It's like dealing with a 6-year-old. What is wrong with you, Desmond?
You want to know what's wrong? I'm sick of being treated like I'm not even here. Desmond, do this. Desmond, do that. Desmond, you better figure things out because the sun is going to turn us all to ash. And I know I was really nice to you, but actually I'm just another Templar plot twist. And yes, I would like very much for you to be controlled by a magic space wizard so that you can murder me. So there's your answer. I'm sick of being a goddamn pawn. I thought it might be different with you. I mean, you're my father, but turns out you're no better than the fucking Templars.
Don't you ever equate me to those bastards again. You hear me? Everything I do, everything I have done, has been for you. Maybe I pushed a little too hard, asked a little too much, but try and remember exactly what's at stake here. You need to get it together, kid. We're running out of time.
That was unusual. Well, I'm just going to pretend that this never happened and get back to bringing everyone up to speed on where we stand. The news isn't good. It appears this temple is powered by a collection of, well, I guess they're batteries. You found one on your way in, but there aren't any more, at least not down here.
Any idea on where we can find replacements?
Not yet, so I intend to tiptoe into the Abstergo database. Now, if I can cross-reference these particular devices with their database, then maybe we'll get lucky.
See what you can do.
Obviously. Anyway, Desmond, you can either take a look around here or we can head back to the Animus.
Oh boy, that was quite intense. Desmond's mind just blew. Yeah, like imagine, you know, being so used to kind of like living the memories of an assassin. When you also play Haven, who kind of like looks to have a lot of qualities of an assassin either, like he has a hidden blade, Genu parkour and all that. But yeah, there's definitely some hints and reviews that would indicate that you're not with the assassins after all. It's kind of interesting how, because they believe that they're with the assassins, they also assigned, like, for example, Animus symbols like the assassin insignia to the allies. Kind of like making you even think further as a player that you're playing the assassins. I kind of like the twist in AC3, I have to say. Like, you're thinking of introduction, but then it's only really the beginning of another character and another kind of like arc. First it's about the Templar perspective, then about the assassins. And yeah, a lot of people criticize AC3 for being like too slow in the build up. And I can definitely understand the struggle. But I think it's really nice how they take their time to kind of like elaborate on all the characters, like especially the villains you're about to assassinate later on. This was kind of asking for that went full Mage Law. Yeah, he definitely said some things that were more like motivated by Desmond just needs a break, essentially. I think he was just like fed up by, you know, the fact he had to be in the Animus all the time. Doesn't really have like a life anymore. But yeah, it's definitely untrue that William is equal to the Templars. Not by a long shot. It's kind of interesting how Juno stands right next to the Animus because she wants you to go back into it as soon as possible. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk to everybody first. Let's talk to Rebecca.
What are you working on?
Lots of different stuff. If you're going into the field, we need a way to keep tabs on you and stay in touch. Hacking into local security systems won't cut it.
Thanks.
For what?
I don't know. Everything. You've sacrificed a lot for me, you and Sean both. I mean, you upgraded the Animus, you helped train me, pulled me out of that coma. You put all that work into the database and helped me solve Clay's puzzles. I know I haven't been the easiest person to work with, and I'm sorry for that. I just want you to know that even if I'm shitty at showing it, I appreciate everything you've done.
You really think we'll finally get some answers down here?
Maybe. Talking to the First Civ has always been a pain in the ass, though.
Imagine what it must be like for them.
What do you mean?
They've been separated from us by tens of thousands of years. A completely different language and culture. Possessed of an intelligence vastly superior to our own. We're lucky they've communicated as much as they have.
I don't know why they had to make this all so complicated. I mean, if they need something from me, they should just come out and say it.
I've been wondering about that myself. I get the sense Juno and Minerva didn't exactly see eye to eye. I'm studying everything I can get my hands on, but maybe you'll find something down here that can shed light on the mystery. What happened between them, and why?
Yeah, that's, I think... Like, not exaggerating it at all, but they didn't see eye to eye. Like, Minerva actually was, you know, sympathetic to the humans that the Isu have enslaved to a big degree. And Juno was actually in favor of both fighting the war against the humans and the rebellion, but also making sure that the humans would take, you know, be taken back into, I guess, imprisonment and slavery again. While Minerva tried to set them free and to make them independent. Which is also one of the reasons why Minerva, aka Athena, has been worshipped by a lot of people. As kind of like, you know, the wisdom giver, I guess, in a way. But yeah, Juno always tried to like actively manipulate people to her favor, rather than, you know, really being interested in helping you. I guess in a way she does later on, because she, you know, like her being set free at the end of AC3 leads to the world being at least temporarily saved. But, you know, she has like ill intentions.
What do you think's behind that door?
No idea.
Do you think it can save us?
The first Civ seemed to think so.
What if it's dangerous?
It's not like we have a lot of alternatives.
Well, we could, I don't know, warn the president?
And what's he gonna do? Who's to say he isn't in bed with Abstergo? Seems everyone is these days.
What if we went to...
Fuck, don't want to cancel it.
What do you think's behind that door?
No idea.
Do you think it can save us?
The first Civ seemed to think so.
What if it's dangerous?
It's not like we have a lot of alternatives.
Well, we could, I don't know, warn the president?
And what's he gonna do? Who's to say he isn't in bed with Abstergo? Seems everyone is these days.
What if we went to them? To Abstergo, I mean.
I thought about it, actually. Showing them what we've seen, trying to work together. They must know so much more than we do, but...
What is it?
It's possible they know exactly what's going to happen. That they want it to happen. I mean, for all we know, they're hiding out in bunkers right now, waiting for the world to end. And then when it's all over, out they come. Ready to take control.
God, I hope you're wrong.
So do I, Rebecca. So do I.
Yeah, no, he's right. That's exactly what we're planning, as we have found out in the glyphs in AC2 and Brotherhood as well. Like, they knew about all of this happening, also in AC1. We found that out in the modern day computers and emails. They're kind of like planning on taking control during the 21st of December. Like, they know something like a cataclysm was coming. And what they actually tried to do is find the Apple of Eden so they could use it in a satellite, which they would use to then mass control of the people that are left, essentially, after the catastrophe. While they would wait in, you know, the bunkers and come out after the catastrophe to kind of like take over and start a new world order. That's literally their plan. Striker Knight, you hated how they build up Juno as a modern day villain and we never get a game taking her down. Yeah, me too, dude. I think it's just really a missed opportunity and a shame they didn't do that, you know, considering it's like the biggest plot since Brotherhood. Like the connection between Juno, Minerva and modern day and history at the same time. Just a shame, you know, that there's like only comic going into that and then the game just completely drop the entire plot, essentially. Almost like pretending like it never happened.
Alright, I should be getting back to work. Sorry, Desmond, a little busy right now. Let's talk later.
Alright, let's talk to Sean next.
Would you look at that?
What is it?
If I had to guess, I would say it's a counter. And judging from the iconography, I think it's safe to say when that's emptied, the end begins.
That's not good.
Hello, Desmond. How's things?
Same old. Another day, another ancestor.
Who'd have thought you'd have a Templar in your family tree?
I think he started out as an assassin. They must have turned him.
Right you are, in fact. I've been reviewing our archives, and it appears that Haytham's father was indeed an assassin, which means he was likely one too, at least for a little while.
What else did you find?
That fella from the opera, Reginald Birch, Grand Master of the London chapter of Templars, he and Haytham's father, a man named Edward, well, they were long-time rivals. Now, it appears Birch got his hands on Haytham at a rather young age, worked his wiles to convince Haytham to switch sides. Wonder how he did it. I'll see if I can't dig up more.
So that's really cool here, this connection to Black Flag actually. You know, Edward, the father to Haven, Edward Kenway, being the protagonist of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Obviously at the time of AC3, you know, he wasn't a character yet that has been officially like established by a game. But yeah, we have already played Black Flag of course before, because we play the games in historical order. It's kind of like interesting having that reference to Edward in the game that came before Black Flag, you know, in like release order. And yeah, Reginald Birch, of course, you know, he's been the one to kill Edward eventually. He like planned a hit on Edward and on his family, and Edward died in that. Haven came to his defense at a very young age, like 8 to 10 or something, I think. And even killed a man, like one of the hitmen, in front of his mother. But that ultimately led to his mother, you know, abandoning Haven. Like she couldn't see into his eyes anymore. And Haven's sister, Jennifer Kenway, she got sold into slavery by Reginald Birch. And what did Reginald Birch do? He took Haven as his own son and raised him to become a Templar. And that's why Haven is a Templar essentially, you know. Like Edward would have raised him as a free-thinking person, not to be manipulated by anybody. But before Edward had a chance to do so, it was too late, essentially. It's really tragic, you know, like how Haven became the person that he is. And who he's working for.
Honest answer, please, Desmond. Do you think we're getting out of this alive?
I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty tall order. If the first Civ couldn't save the world, how the hell are we supposed to swing it?
We have some time.
We have less than 2 months. They had decades and a lot more resources. And the worst part is we knew this was coming for, what, hundreds of years?
History repeats, it seems. The first Civ was so busy with their war against us, no one even noticed what was happening. We get advance warning and then fall to fighting with the Templars. Lovely.
Hopefully, whatever's behind that door will make a difference.
And if it doesn't, well, at least we tried. Back to work I go. You should consider doing the same. I'm working right now. All the visual clues are here, which means no time for chit-chat, okay? Sorry.
Alright, let's go and read some emails. Rebecca Crane, patch notes. Hey yo, had a little bit of downtime while you were gone, so figured I'd do what I could to upgrade the operating system. It's actually been ready for a little while now, but with the enemies in safe mode, I wasn't about to try an installation. Things I did. Actually it should be we, since I had a few people in the other cell chip in. Modifications to the targeting system. You should be able to move in and out of combat more easily. Free running improvements. You're less likely to jump at the wrong time in the wrong direction. Only one input for interacting with the world. No more choosing between parts of your ancestor's body. You can assassinate while moving now. Definitely try it out ASAP. You can pick up weapons on the go as well. We implemented a weather system. Rain, snow, wind, it's all there. Animals, enough said. Faster fast travel. Just open your map and you can instantly travel to any unlocked fast travel station. Revamped the map. It now provides lots of additional information and you've got more control over what it shows. There's tons of other stuff, but your dad is yelling at me to get back to work, so I better wrap this up. I hit you up on the other side as you come across new features. So it's kind of cool because it's kind of like, you know, breaking the barrier of like, this is a game in a way. Because what is done for the game engine that Ubisoft has done is also explained by the Animus and itself being a simulation essentially, right? So things that you have in the simulation of the Animus, like a mini map, you know, Desmond actually sees, and so do you as a player. And the way you like free roam, for instance, is not like the way the player or the ancestor actually did move or, you know, did go or whatever. But there's only like a chance of like synchronizing exactly how things have happened. That's one of the reasons why I love the optional objectives, because they give you like more insight in like, okay, how did the ancestor actually approach a certain mission? Some people argue, you know, that it makes AC kind of like a very linear kind of like game, but I mean, it's kind of like, you know, the story's sense. Like you want to find out how things really turn out, how it really happened. And apart from that, you know, like it's all up to interpretation really, and you have a lot of liberty as a player. So to me, it always feels like a very liberating experience, I guess. It just like depends on how you see it. But yeah, all of these changes are definitely mostly an improvement, I would say. Like from a targeting system to kind of like interacting. The assassination while moving is really nice. Of course, the weather and wildlife system is really well done. Sean Hastings, database. First of all, welcome back. It's good to see you fully recovered. Can't imagine what it was like for you, trapped in there. If you ever want to chat about it, you just let me know. Anyway, you find the database essentially unchanged aside from a few cosmetic upgrades. As before, you receive a notification when I've added a new entry. I also let you know if any of the entries are updated, as is often the case when dealing with these conspiratorial ancestors of yours. Realistically, the Animus is just downloading memories into the mind of the user. It's like they are watching it happen in real time, though. Yeah, exactly. Kind of interesting when Warren Willig says it in AC1 that the ancestor leaves very little room for interpretation. At least when you see like memories unfold the way they have happened, like you know, the cutscenes and stuff. William Miles, the mission. I know it's easy to get distracted while inside the Animus, but I'm hoping everyone can stay focused here. We need to find that key as soon as possible. Also, do not go exploring the temple without first clearing it with me, and carry your headsets with you at all times. Can't afford to lose anyone because curiosity got the better of them. We're short-handed as is. Sean, Boards. We've got a visitor down here. It's Juno. She's been appearing every now and then, sort of flits through the air, reminds us to guard you well, find the key, blah blah, and then poof, disappears. At first we thought it was just another holographic recording, but then your father called her some rather choice words, and she glared at him. Honest. Swiveled those eyes in his direction and frowned. Creeped me out. I don't know if she's reaching out to us from the past, if some part of her is actually still conscious, or if maybe she's inside the apple, like some evil genie. Whatever it is, it gives me the creeps. And on that note, happy Halloween! Sean, Hatham's Amulet. Though I suppose Hatham's Amulet is technically a piece of Eden, it's not particularly exciting. It functions as a key, and well, that's about it. I know, we're all used to these things being incredibly powerful, and was rather dangerous, but this one is neither. Is it weird I'm disappointed? That said, it's still critical to our mission, so I suppose that counts for something. I kinda like that this like establishes that pieces of Eden are just like tools used by the ancient ones, but they're not always like a place or kind of like a piece of power or like control or whatever. Like this is literally just a key for a very important door, but it's only a key at the end of the day. Sean Hastings. Good Lord, Rebecca. With all the fixes and updates and improvements you supposedly put into this recent software revision, one would think you would have had the decency to include the British-English dictionary in the spell checker. Some of us prefer to use proper language when corresponding. The database keeps trying to replace the letters S with Z in certain words, and it's declared war on the letter U as well. Realize becomes realize, and color becomes color. Wrong, wrong, wrong. It's all rather ethnocentric if you ask me, also quite against the principles of the Assassin Brotherhood, last I checked. And here I thought we were meant to be an all-inclusive bunch. Oh man, I love Sean. He's just always trying to, knock on people. Rebecca, email fix. Just a quick heads up, replying to email chains will no longer return multiple instances of the word RE. Should cut down on subject length considerably. Sean Hastings, email fix. And hey there, Chaotic Assassin. Welcome in. Thank you for the raid, I appreciate it. I hope you had a good stream today. And welcome into some AC. We're playing some AC3. Playing the Colonial Saga in historical order. How was Dead Space? So Sean answers to this email with, are you sure about that? So basically put that into the email header to confuse Rebecca. Rebecca says, very funny, Sean. William says, focus please. Just a chill kind of gameplay, but scary. Ah, I gotcha. Yeah, I think I've seen like a little bit of gameplay of it. And it definitely creeped me out at times. But yeah, that's good, that it finds like a middle ground between being scary and being like, chill. So far, so good. Hey there, Desmond. As you see from the date of this email, you've been in the Animus for a few days now. But don't worry, I've been staying on top of your vitals, not even a blip. So looks like extending the sessions won't be a problem. Whatever happened between you and 16 seems to have increased your tolerance. The Animus keeps you in a resting state which takes care of fatigue, and your memories are vivid enough we actually see micro movement in your muscles, which means no atrophy issues either. Still, we'll be bringing you out for breaks just to stay on the safe side. Right, that's all the emotes. Now we can only talk to Williamites, and that's all the modern day done for now. I did a few other games as well, like Left 4 Dead 2 and Halo. Also a bit like a horror focus today, at least with Left 4 Dead. I think I played Left 4 Dead with friends together. Isn't it like a co-op kind of game as well?
Yes?
Just thought I'd, say hi.
You have more important things to do right now.
Jesus, Dad.
What? What do you want me to say?
I don't know. Hi, son. How are you? What have you been up to?
I know what you've been up to. Nothing.
You wasted away in some shitty apartment with a pointless job, while the rest of us were out there fighting to make a difference.
You are such an asshole. Are you thinking about hitting me again? Because this time, I will hit back.
Man, the tension between Desmond and William here. He definitely is an asshole, at times at least. I mean, he means well, that's the thing. But he has a really shitty way of, you know, showing it.
Let's just get back to work, okay? Stop wasting time.
I mean, I can kind of understand him, you know, like he's thinking the greater things of, or greater scheme of things, I guess. Like he sees, you know, the urgency of having only 1.5 months left until the catastrophe happens, so he wants to take, you know, whatever actions possible or necessary. This was one of the best last ACs ever made till AC went the way they are now, sadly. Yeah, I really enjoyed this game as well. Like, there's countless other games afterwards that I also really love deeply, but I kind of know what you mean. Like with the Desmond Saga and with Desmond himself died a lot of the enthusiasm I had for the modern day story, for instance. And it just really enriched also the historical part because it was like intertwined so much. Like now it still is in a way, but not quite as it was before.
Clock's ticking, Desmond. Come on, son, we've got work to do.
I kind of like how he becomes like a bit more calm the more you ask him. Almost like, you know, the more you want to speak to him, the more he's like being patient with you. I don't know. I feel like that's another detail. After going through Valhalla, you can't touch that or any new ones that would come out anymore. You're out of it. Ah, okay. That's fair, dude. So, I actually quite enjoyed Valhalla in a lot of ways, but there also were other ways or other things about Valhalla that I didn't enjoy quite as much. What would you say were things that threw you out of Valhalla? I guess. Kinda curious what kind of like you know, made you go away from that game. You always felt like Layla was a downgrade and the level RPG elements from Origins onwards turned you off. That's fair too, yeah, it's like quite the change from the usual AC formula. But that's the thing, right, like Ubisoft is always like overreacting to criticism, it seems. And I remember when Unity and Cynic came out, of course the reception was so negative towards the direction and AC just becoming stale. Like after Black Flag, you know, people wanted to see like more variety, I guess, and they just got back to like the old school AC gameplay, which, I mean, I love. But they really wanted to change it up like a lot, I think, with Origins, and that's why they went so deep into the RPG mechanics. Now, personally, I love Origins, and I also love the gameplay, but I definitely not say it's at all the same or comparable to how it was before in the series. I just happen to love both styles of games, I guess. But the thing for me personally is it always has to be explained well within the lore. Like, if the lore is messed up, then I don't find much enjoyment in any AC game. Which is why I struggle with Rogues and Odyssey story a lot, like playing through it sometimes. Even though I enjoy it on like a gameplay basis. But yeah, Layla as a character, though, like coming back to that, I don't really enjoy, I have to say. I feel like in Origins already she comes off a bit unlikable with her intentions and the way she behaves, and yeah, I don't know, at least to me she didn't really seem sympathetic, and then Odyssey just completely tanked it. Like the way Layla's written Odyssey is just so insufferable and obnoxious and stupid at times. Like, especially the Fate of Atlantis DLC is just, holy shit, like the worst modern day ever in the series. I feel like Valhalla did a lot of redemption for Layla though. Like, they really managed me to almost make me care for Layla by the end of it. Which is saying a lot, like, considering how much I hated Odyssey's Layla modern day storyline. Go way too into the mythologies and the history basis. Origins stayed with the story as well with the RPGs, which was good together. Yeah, kinda like that Origins still had like the linear story, right? Like, yeah, you have like gameplay wise a lot of RPG mechanics, but overall as a story narratively driven game, it's still an action adventure. Where you have like a linear story that you follow. And I feel like that really worked well, like this connection between old style in the narrative and the new style in gameplay. But yeah, with Odyssey it got like more and more convoluted, like having dialogue choices, you know, people having completely different outcomes of what happens. The developers not making any statement about what is actually happening. And saying, yeah, the book is canon, but then you read the book or read up about what happens there and you can't line it up in the game either. It just creates so many inconsistencies where you don't really know what's happening anymore. I feel like Valhalla does a much better job with the dialogue choice system, because it defines Eivor more as a character, and a lot of the choices aren't about making decisions about what happens, but rather finding out what happened. But yeah, the choice system is just something I think they should drop altogether. I think it's not needed in AC. And yeah, the mythologies is definitely an issue as well. I feel like Valhalla's base game, like main game, did a really good job with mythologies, because I don't know if you played that far, Chaotic Assassin, but later on you find out something about it. And that changed the whole way I saw the mythology, which I didn't enjoy too much at the start of Valhalla. Like when I did the first Asgard dream portion, I didn't really enjoy it, I just wanted to end it. But when I found out what really happens behind the curtain, I guess, I was like, holy shit, that blew my mind. But there's a lot of other DLCs or games that don't do a good job at making mythology work with the ISO lore. And Odyssey is just one of them. And so is the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC that came out for Valhalla recently. Just a shame. But really it's a product of just having like too many writers working on the story that don't communicate properly with each other what is like supposed to be, you know, logic within the universe. Like you have Darby McDevitt who writes, you know, the base game of Valhalla, and he does like such a great job making mythology, history, and Isu work together at modern day. And then you have like writers of Quebec with Odyssey who just don't give a fuck about any of it. They just want to create like a fun game, and they try to take any justification for it to happen. It doesn't matter if the lore, kind of like what's been established, kind of like suffers because of it. But yeah, I guess what I would try to say is that I feel like there's definitely some positive to find in the new games, but also a lot to criticize for sure. And some of the direction changes I think are very questionable. Especially when it comes to like how they treat microtransactions and additional content, like post-launch content and stuff. Like for how much I enjoyed Valhalla's main game, I really didn't enjoy the DLCs too much in comparison. But yeah, anyways, so this finishes sequence 3 of AC3, which means that ends the years of, let's see, I think 1755. Indeed. So that finishes July of 1755 with what we just played. So the next sequence actually takes place in AC Rogue with November of 1755. And now we're essentially playing Rogue from Sequence 2 Memory 4 until the end of the game, essentially. Minus the Paris stories, so the next AC parts are gonna be focusing almost entirely on Rogue for now. We will definitely make a start on that tonight because I still have some time to stream. At least like another hour or so. So we're gonna go and change over to some Rogue for the rest of the stream. Just gonna make sure to change everything here. Like